This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by a new version of Frank Smith. First time I've seen you since you've changed your appearance. Frank, how you doing?
Good, mate. No one knows who I am. It's brilliant. It's exactly what I needed.
I was going to say, you walked in, I said, is Harry Hill here?
No, Harry Hill or Tom Hardy, was it? Or Jason Statham?
Very, very different.
There's a lot of combat. That's why I didn't wear the glasses, though. I didn't want any Harry Hill shouts. But, I suppose I'm never going to get away from it, am I?
I don't think you will, Frank. But yeah, here we are onto the good stuff for boxing talk. Bellotti, Dillon. Just your thoughts on this fight, Frank. And I think a lot of people when I speak to me just expect it to be two men coming forwards and all hell breaking loose.
Great. That's what we want. That's what boxing's all about. That's what people tune in for, is those fights where they're going to come in and they're going to stand in the middle of the ring and they're going to go for it. Bellotti's on a brilliant run of form. There's so many fighters who have had a couple of losses counted out in their career, but Bellotti's showing that it doesn't mean the end, which is great to see, because that's been the pressure in the sport for so long. Of you suffer a loss, it's the end. And Reece is showing, and one of the names showing that doesn't mean anything. But this is a big moment for Liam as well, though, to step up. He's on the big platform and to go and get a massive win. So I think we're in for a 12-round tear-up.
I know you can't really have favourites as the promoter there, Frank, and I don't believe Reece is under a promotional contract, but you've worked with him for a number of years. You've promoted him when he's fallen short in other British title attempts. Just on that note, how happy would you be to see him go and finally fulfil that dream of his?
Look, I'm always happy for it. It's hard with it, sometimes it's hard with boxing if you sort of favour fighters, because we're in it, we're going to work with people for a long time. I just want to deliver the best possible fights. I want fighters to get paid and have great moments in their career. Obviously for Reece Bellotti it would be a special moment. It would be amazing to see him continue this run he's on and setting up some even bigger fights down the road as well. And he's in it very much a bit like Jordan Gill with that Michael Conlan win. Wrote off many years ago, I'm sure, and then come back and nights like that. So yeah, look, Reece Bellotti, lovely bloke, and very happy for him that he's in the position he's in for sure.
Just on Michael Conlan, we haven't actually had anything from him since. We know he did have that rematch clause. I don't know how long that can stay in play for, but has he spoken to you guys what he wants to do?
Briefly, I saw him when I was in Belfast for our show a couple of weeks ago. I don't think he's decided what he wants to do. As I've said on many occasions, he's had a tremendous career, amateur, pro, and he's fortunate, because of his hard work, that he's put himself in a position that he's in a good place financially. Not every fighter is in that position. And I'm sure he'll be going through in his head what he wants to do. As always with fighters, a lot of the time they always want more, or they always think there's one more. They always, but look, I'm sure he's got a great family and team around him. Obviously his brother Jamie's very much involved with him, and they'll make the best decision for him in his career. So we'll see what he decides.
Craig Richards, Boris Crichton. Craig's returned to the ring after a lengthy spell out, and we know Boris is a tough, durable man. We'll give him some good rounds. Just your hopes for, do you need Craig, or do you want Craig to really make a standout performance with all this talk about what could be next in the light heavyweight division?
It's the next gen of the next gen of Craig's career.
He said he's headlined 5 next gens, he was saying to me.
Yeah, he's no, look, the focus for us was to get Craig out. He's had too long out the ring from injuries. He's been, a frustrating period. We want to make big fights this year, and that's what we're working towards. But in order to do that, he needed this kind of fight. He needed to get out. Boris, as you say, is a tough opponent. He went in against Lyndon Arthur on a day's notice, I think it was, and gave him, a brilliant fight. And that's the kind of fight Craig needs to set him up for the type of fights we're looking at this year. So yeah, it was great to see him back out. Craig's a great guy. He's been in there with some of the best. He's when many fighters turn down opportunities, he went in there with Dimitri Bivol and put on a great performance. He went in there with Joshua Buatsi, great fight there as well. So there's lots of big fights for Craig, and happy to see him back out. And we've got to keep him active now.
You mentioned Frank, kind of a next gen in Craig's scenario. Reece is 33 himself now. Both of them been around the block for a while. Some people, when they see next gen announced, they'd expect a younger fighter coming through, certainly headlining. Not the case this time around. Do you understand maybe the question marks over it? Yeah,
look, Liam's obviously essentially the champion here. He's 12-0. It's probably about the right stage of a next gen fighter. You're not always going to see two younger fighters in there. Sometimes it's great to give these younger fighters, a bit like Chev Clark with Tommy McCarthy last week. That's a kind of fight that could headline the next gen. Chev Clark is who we're saying is the next gen, going in there against an experienced fighter. So, and with Craig, as I say, it wasn't about the next gen show. It was just about getting Craig out. But that's when you got the likes of Shannon Ryan going in there, two undefeated fighters going in there together there. Cameron Vong, who we've spoken about a lot about his talent and how far he can go. And then the undercard, John Hedges back out as well. Emmanuel on the undercard, Jack, Ibrahim. They're the next gen stars as well. So I can understand on paper sometimes, but that's the explanation.
Very well put, Frank. Moving forwards, or sticking with Craig rather, just spoke to Shane McGuigan. He said there's been somewhat brief talks about a potential Anthony Yarde fight beyond this. What can you tell me about that?
That's a fight we'd love to make, the Anthony Yarde fight. It's one of the fights we've sort of said could be interesting on the 5v5, but nothing further than that right now. We're obviously waiting on the weight divisions to be decided on that. We think Craig Richards is a tremendous fighter. We want to win the 5v5, and I think that's a brilliant fight. I think it's an amazing fight, but I think Craig can get the win against Anthony Yarde. Frank,
Fury-Usyk delayed due to the cut to Tyson. I was going to get your thoughts on that and the card being pushed back to May 18th, which is an interesting day. I'll come on to Viceroy.
It's a shame, obviously, in the first part that the fight's delayed, but at the same time, it's great to see a fight of that magnitude and how quickly they move to get it back up and running. We've only got to look 3 months around the corner. We've got AJ against Ngannou in the interim. We're going to see it. We're going to see the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship, and well done to all involved on moving swiftly to get it up and running.
I know that obviously Eddie's mentioned, and you've mentioned previously, there's somewhat of a plan out there for beyond the Undisputed, but eventually for AJ to position himself to face Tyson if he was to come through Usyk. How does that change the plans with a delay of 3 months, if at all?
I mean, look, really, you can't ever plan too much in boxing, and the focus for us is for Anthony Joshua to keep active and be in big fights. And March 8th is where we're looking at right now, and beyond that, we see where we fall. Anything can happen in the next 3 months, anything can happen in the next 6 months. So, yes, although we plan and we think about what's going to happen next, who knows what happens next. But March 8th right now is the focus.
May 18th, Frank. That was a date touted for Leigh Wood, Josh Warrington 2. It seems to be the only date which could take place at the City Ground. Is that now off the cards?
Unfortunately, we've been speaking to the City Ground a lot. Hopefully we can get something set up for next year. It feels like a long time away, but years move quickly in boxing. Unfortunately with May 18th, that's a date that would clash for sure.
So how does Wood-Warrington 2 play out now, or do you go down a different avenue for Leigh Wood and Josh Warrington?
We're talking to both guys about other options as well, whether that be internationally, whether that be in the UK. We're working through those now, and hopefully we can have some news soon.
Obviously with Leigh, he's mentioned that he's somewhat at the back end of his career. He doesn't expect to be boxing for very much longer. If you were to deliver him the City Ground next year, how many more fights do you feel he has left? Because in that time he may well be on his 1 foot out the door type scenario. Yeah,
look, he's probably looking at 3 fights if that's the plan. 1 this summer, 1 in the winter, and then 1 next year. If that's the focus for him to fight at the City Ground. But again, step by step. Leigh's in a tremendous position. He's done amazing things in the sport and come back from hard times as well in the sport. So, step by step, let's focus on what's next, and then, hopefully we can make that dream come true next year. We've worked very hard to try and do it. We've done everything within our power, but one of those situations, unfortunately.
Just a final one on it. How did Leigh take it? Because as you mentioned, it was his dream to do so.
Yeah, no, it was tough for Leigh because he's very much built. There was many talks as well around whether that's all he wanted now. Money is great. Obviously, everyone wants to make money, but I think for him it was his dream to go there, to fight there, and take away the fight. Take away the money, take away the fights. It was about fighting at the City Ground. So yeah, it was a tough one for him, and I'm sure it's still a tough one for him. But we'll work through with him and make the best plan possible.
Moving away from that, I've seen comments from Sabril Matias suggest that he's going to face Liam Paro in Puerto Rico. Can you tell me more details about that?
Not done, but that's a great fight. But yeah, let's see. I think he might have announced something prematurely, but not done.
Close to being done.
Well, you never know. Let's see. Nothing's close until it's done.
Unfortunately, that's happened too many times with boxing, Frank. Moving forwards, Tank versus Benn. Will we see that fight? I fall on the line of, or beneath the line of, I'm not very optimistic we see it.
I think we're just not arguing about the naming rights at the minute, whether it's Benn v Tank or Tank v Benn, and the ring walks, and who ring walks third.
Third?
Yeah, between Leonard and Eddie. So, no, look, I think it's a fight. Everyone's calling out Conor Benn, and the focus for us is to deliver the biggest possible fight for Conor Benn next, and that is what we'll do. Could it be Tank? Maybe. Could it be someone else? Yes. There's probably 5 or 6 fights out there for Conor Benn. We got to deliver a big night for him, and that's our plan, and that's what we're working towards.
I've seen Eddie's comments that if it was to happen, it would take place in the States. With that in mind, obviously we know that the appeal date is on its horizon within these next weeks or so. If he does have a successful return from that and he's able to then reapply for a British Boxing Board of Control licence, do you then look to go down a different avenue, getting back in the UK?
Look, our focus, I'd love for him to box in the UK. And Conor Benn is probably in the top 4 British fighters right now, and he should be fighting in the UK. And that will be a focus for us to do that, to get him back in the United Kingdom, to get him in big stadium fights here. So yeah, for sure, if everything pans out the way we believe it will over the next few weeks, month, then I think we'll see him back in the UK. We've always wanted to do that. He's had 2 great fights, both in Las Vegas and Orlando. But yeah, we want to get him back to the UK, and we have wanted to for a while.
And again, moving forwards, Adam Azim, Dalton Smith, EBU title ordered February 28th, purse bids. Both men seemingly playing that fight down. Adam's going into Ramadan. Dalton's got a very tough fight coming up with Jose Zepeda. Just your thoughts on that entire situation, how do you think it unfolds?
Yeah, I saw Adam Azim's tweet yesterday. I think they're talking about possibly delaying the bids, which I actually think is, in terms of time frames, Dalton's got his fight March 23rd, Adam Azim, Ramadan, as you say. The bids, and the time frames, let's delay, no problem. But that fight should be next after Dalton's fight against Zepeda. Dalton's stepping up very, in a huge way against Zepeda on March 23. It's a tough fight for him, but he goes in there, he wants the Adam Azim fight. He's wanted the Adam Azim fight for a long time, and hopefully he doesn't get pulled out by someone.
Frank, Mr. Ben Whittaker's been certainly making a few waves over social media after his performance this past weekend. I know you guys were close to signing him prior to his deal with Boxer. I just want to get your thoughts on seeing his progression, all of the talk about him on social media, and also some interesting comments of him mentioning he wants to fight in America. If the timing's right at some point, revisiting the table there, because you obviously have that global platform.
Look, we're not going to go after fighters unlike others who are under contract. He's a brilliant fighter, hence why we had a lot of discussions with him in the first place. He's entertaining in the ring, he's got people talking, and he's one of those characters where even if you don't like him, you want to watch him. We've had many of those over the years, and that's Ben Whittaker. But yeah, he's a great fighter. He's a great fighter, and he's got a long career ahead of him, and I'm sure he's got big nights to come, so let's see.
And just final one, just because we haven't spoken, John Ryder recently announcing his retirement, a fantastic career, never quite got to achieve that goal of world champion, but he's had some big nights and earned some good money from the sport. Yeah,
look, John Ryder, one of the nicest blokes in the sport, someone we've worked with for, I think, 12 years or so, been through great nights with him, been through tough nights, but one of the good guys of the sport, and someone who truly deserves everything he's got out of the sport. Again, someone who's, because of his hard work, fortunate that he's put himself in a position to be able to retire, with his family and the money behind him. He's going to carry on in the sport, I believe, as a coach, and look forward to working with him in the future. But what a guy, and he's someone we love very much, and I'm sure we'll see him at a lot more Matchroom shows down the line.
Frank, it is a pleasure as always. Obviously, enjoy the rest of your week, enjoy Saturday night, and I'll catch you about soon.
Cheers, mate. Good to see you.